I really don't want to talk about this show tonight. Don't want to talk about this fucking show, but I got to for you guys. But hey everyone, this is Michael again. Welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. Monday Night Raw tonight was from the FedEx Forum in Memphis, Tennessee. And Monday Night Raw, what an absolute fucking bore fest of a show this was. This show was absolutely fucking boring. God awful show it was tonight. So we had Becky Lynch versus Liv Morgan for the Raw Women's Championship, which was the main event of Monday Night Raw tonight. WWE was hyping this match up for the past week, and then the hype really picked up with them promoting it all over their social media today. You know, they were posting tweets and stuff on their social media of, Lita and Trish Stratus thinking that they were going to recapture that magic that we saw in the Lita and Trish Stratus match from 17 years ago when they main evented Monday Night Raw. Well, Becky Lynch versus Liv Morgan tonight, it was just okay in my opinion, but definitely doesn't even compare to the Trish Stratus versus Lita match 17 years ago, which that match was 100 times better. So WWE, they wanted to try to recapture that because today marks 17 years that match with Lita and Trish Stratus took place. They wanted to try to recapture all that. But in the end, it was the same old shit. Same old shit. And we had Big E versus Kevin Owens in a steel cage match tonight, which meant nothing, in my opinion. The title wasn't even on the line. The WWE Championship wasn't on the line. So and then we had Queen Zelina versus Nikki A.S.H. We had two matches in a RK Bro Name It tournament, which Matt Riddle put together. So we have 4 teams. Why are we even doing this? Those 4 teams are your tag team division on Monday Night Raw. So there you go. 4 teams in this tournament, which makes up the whole tag team division. Why are we doing this? Why are we having this tournament when there's only 4 teams on Monday Night Raw? That's your whole tag team division there. So we had 2 matches in that. And then we had Bianca Belair versus Doudrop. Damian Priest versus Roode for the United States Championship. This sounds like an exciting Monday Night Raw, right? And then we had Miz TV, which Miz had his guest Edge on. Man, Monday Night Raw was fucking terrible tonight. Just absolutely fucking boring show. If I had to rate this show, it would be a fucking 0. A 0 out of 10. Before I get to the review, if you guys haven't seen my previous video that I uploaded earlier today, I did a movie review of 8-Bit Christmas, which starred Neil Patrick Harris in it. And if you guys haven't checked out that, definitely give it a watch. Really loved the film, really enjoy it. It's a good Christmas film. So check out my review of 8-Bit Christmas if you guys haven't checked it out. So it's up on my channel. But I would recommend that film. Just a Very good Christmas film that had heart to it. But let's jump right into the review of this boring-ass Monday Night Raw. So Monday Night Raw opened up tonight with Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins was backstage. He was laughing. He ended up saying that tonight Kevin Owens will find himself going one-on-one with Big E inside a steel cage. So then it cut to the ring. We saw the cage was being lowered around the ring. Seth Rollins ended up saying that he will enjoy every second as Kevin Owens and Big E will destroy each other. Rollins then went on to say that at day one, he will usher in a new year with a new champion as he claims his rightful place as the WWE champion. So Rollins ended up laughing again. He ended up telling everyone in the crowd to enjoy the show. More like fall asleep to the show. So then we went backstage and we saw Big E. Big E was fired up. Big E ended up saying that tonight in the steel cage, there is no easy way out. And not only will he beat Kevin Owens, he will punish Kevin Owens. And then we went to the ring and we had the match, Kevin Owens versus Big E, steel cage match, which the match was okay, but in the end it did nothing for Kevin Owens. So Big E ended up coming out first. Kevin Owens was then backstage. Kevin Owens ended up saying that Big E has been calling him a liar for months. He ended up saying that Big E is the real liar. Kevin Owens ended up saying about how he is the real WWE champion and that Big E is just holding on to the title until day one. Owens then went on to say that everyone will finally rejoice when he wins the WWE championship and that he will be the one to punish Big E in the steel cage. And that is no lie. So then Kevin Owens ended up coming out. And then the match got underway, which I gotta say, the crowd in Memphis, Tennessee tonight, they were like in a coma throughout the night. They weren't cheering or anything. You know, they were cheering at some parts, but mostly 95%. They were just silent. They were like zombies in a coma. So the match ended up starting. Kevin Owens ended up going right to escape the cage. Big E ended up attacking him, ended up stopping Kevin Owens. Big E blocked a stunner from Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens had one of the referees open up the cage door. Big E ended up stopping him from escaping the cage. So Big E then ended up running into a boot from Kevin Owens in the corner. Owens ended up looking to climb, but Big E ended up crouching him over the top rope. Big E then ended up trapping Kevin Owens between the ropes and the steel of the cage. So Big E was working Kevin Owens over. So Kevin Owens ended up climbing up to the top because he ended up jabbing at Big E. Big E ended up climbing up as Kevin Owens ended up getting close up to the top. Big E was shown grinding Kevin Owens' head into the steel. So both guys end up coming down. Big E ended up smashing Kevin Owens. Big E launched Kevin Owens into the steel, and he got some more offense on Kevin Owens. Big E ended up going for the spear between the ropes, but Kevin Owens ended up moving out of the way, and so Big E ended up hitting the steel head on, and Big E ended up going down. Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial. We saw Kevin Owens had Big E trapped. Kevin Owens ended up climbing up the cage. Big E ended up grabbing him again. So Kevin Owens then delivered a moonsault onto Big E, which looked pretty nice. So Kevin Owens ended up going for the cover, and Big E kicked out too. Kevin Owens ended up dropping Big E, started pounding on him. Big E then countered, launched Kevin Owens face first into the steel. He went for the cover. Owens ended up kicking out too. So Big E ended up calling for the door to be opened. Kevin Owens ended up stopping him. He ended up sending Big E into the steel to prevent from Big E escaping the cage. Kevin Owens ended up bringing Big E back into the middle of the ring. So Kevin Owens kept control of the match. So we had Kevin Owens end up slamming Big E face first into the steel. Kevin Owens ended up climbing up the cage. Big E ended up grabbing Kevin Owens' leg and yanked at his leg. So Big E had Kevin Owens on his shoulders, and Big E ended up going to fall back onto the mat from the top. Kevin Owens ended up turning that into a sunset bomb onto Big E. He went for the cover. Big E ended up kicking out at 2. Kevin Owens couldn't believe that Big E ended up kicking out of that. So we had Seth Rollins end up appearing out of nowhere. He ended up slamming the door on both Kevin Owens and Big E. Rollins was dancing around at ringside. He was laughing. And then when Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Rollins ended up watching at ringside as Big E and Kevin Owens started training some offense on the top rope. Big E ended up going for a super big ending, but Kevin Owens ended up raking Big E's eyes. He ended up kicking him in the face to send Big E back down to the mat. So we had Kevin Owens end up leaping out with a frog splash onto Big E, which he connected. So he went for the cover. Big E ended up kicking out at 2. So we had the stunner being blocked later on by Big E. Kevin Owens ended up coming right back up with a pop-up powerbomb. And he went for the cover. Big E ended up kicking out at 2. So Kevin Owens ended up starting to climb the cage. Rollins was encouraging Big E to get up and stop Kevin Owens. Big E ended up grabbing Kevin Owens' legs. They started trading more strikes on the top rope. So Big E ended up going for another super big ending from the top. And this time he ended up doing it. He ended up nailing a super big ending from the top onto Kevin Owens. So Big E started crawling for the door. Kevin Owens ended up grabbing his leg. Big E kicked Kevin Owens away. He ended up crawling for the door. And this time, Big E ended up making it out. And he landed on his feet. And there you go. Big E ended up winning the match. Post-match, Big E ended up standing tall. Rollins ended up attacking Big E from behind. Rollins then ended up manhandling Big E at ringside as the cage was being raised above the ring. Rollins ended up rushing into the ring. He started unloading on Kevin Owens. Rollins ended up looking to hit the stomp on Kevin Owens. Big E ended up rushing in. He ended up hitting a belly-belly suplex on Rollins. Big E then delivered another big ending to Kevin Owens. And pretty much that was that. And then as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Seth Rollins was at ringside. He was recovering. Kevin Owens was laid out in the ring. And we had Big E on the outside. And then they played what really happened during the commercial break. So Big E was in the ring, and Bobby Lashley appeared out of nowhere and speared Big E. And then Bobby Lashley ended up taking out Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins. And pretty much that was basically that. Lashley posed in the middle of the ring. And there you go, that was that. But the cage match was okay. But in the end, did nothing for Kevin Owens. And with Bobby Lashley now getting involved, he ended up coming into the ring, spearing Bobby Lashley, taking out also Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins. Are they going with a fatal 4-way match where they're going to have Bobby Lashley versus Big E versus Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins? We'll see. It looks like that's what WWE is teasing. And then we had Queen Zelina and Carmella. They end up coming out. Queen Zelina ended up hushing the crowd, and she ended up insulting Nikki A.S.H, saying that she feels sorry for Nikki, but not as sorry as she will feel when she wins the match. So then Nikki and Rhea Ripley end up coming out. So we had the match, Queen Zelina versus Nikki A.S.H. Awful match. Absolutely terrible match. Match ended up starting, both Nikki and Zelina end up locking up. Zelina ended up taking Nikki into the corner. Nikki ended up going up to the second turnbuckle, and Zelina ended up yanking Nikki to the mat. Zelina ended up using the middle rope on Nikki, started ragdolling her. She was taunting Rhea Ripley. So Zelina ended up keeping control of the match. She ended up rolling up Nikki, and Nikki ended up kicking out too. Nikki ended up countering with a quick pin attempt of her own. Nikki went for another roll-up, which Zelina ended up kicking out too. So at the end of the match, we had Nikki end up dropping Zelina. She ended up going up to the top. Zelina Vega ended up dodging the crossbody. So Zelina ended up following up with the code red on Nikki. And she ended up getting the cover. And there you go. Queen Zelina ended up winning the match. Overall, awful fucking match. Absolutely terrible. And then we saw Randy Orton and Matt Riddle backstage. So Matt Riddle was ranting to Randy Orton. Kevin Patrick ended up interrupting them. Kevin Patrick was asking both Orton and Matt Riddle about the tournament that we're going to see tonight. Matt Riddle ended up mentioning how they will handle everything for the tournament, including interviews. So Matt Riddle was wearing a blazer. It was a brown blazer jacket with the WWE logo on it. And he ended up bringing out a blazer for Randy Orton to wear. Orton at first refused to wear it, but the fans were popping. Apparently they wanted Orton to wear the blazer. So Orton ended up putting it on. Matt Riddle was happy. And they ended up heading out to the ring. I gotta say, Orton wearing the blazer, Orton looked pretty good, and same as Matt Riddle. I have to say, this segment was better than the segment that we got last week, where Matt Riddle ended up putting a wig on Randy Orton just for Randy Orton to act like Matt Riddle, which that segment last week was fucking awful. So both Matt Riddle and Orton ended up heading to the ring. Orton didn't look thrilled with the blazer on. So then Monday Night Raw went to commercial. Then when Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Rhea Ripley and Nikki A.S.H. were backstage. Rhea Ripley was trying to cheer up Nikki because Nikki ended up losing the match to Queen Zelina. So a fan ended up appearing randomly, and she ended up asking Nikki for her autograph. She ended up saying that she's her biggest fan ever. So Nikki got really excited, but the fan ended up saying that she meant she wanted an autograph from this person. And we see WWE Hall of Famer and hometown guy Jerry the King Lawler. So the King was standing there. The King ended up signing the autograph for this fan. Nikki was looking sad, and she ended up walking off. And that was that. But I read today that Jerry Lawler ended up signing another WWE contract. And I'm like, he signed the contract for what? He's going to still appear on the pre-show now for the pay-per-views? So he's only going to be doing that. So they just signed him to another WWE contract just to be on a pre-show for the pay-per-views. So that's what they have for Jerry Lawler. So then we had the first match in this Arcade Bro Name It tournament match, where it was the Street Profits versus Styles and Omos. Styles and Omos ended up coming out first. And then the Street Profits were out there. So we saw footage from earlier in the day where both Dawkins and Ford, they were hyping up the tournament. And they were promising to kick Styles and Omos out of the tournament because they want the smoke. So that was it from the Profits. We had Randy Orton and Matt Riddle. They ended up watching from ringside, on commentary. So the match ended up starting. Styles started unloading on Montez Ford with some chops. Ford came right back, delivered a drop kick on Styles. Ford ended up launching Styles into the corner. Dawkins ended up tagging in. And the Profits ended up double teaming on Styles. They ended up splashing Styles in the middle of the ring. So we had Dawkins ended up going for the cover. Styles ended up kicking out 2. Styles ended up ramming Dawkins back to the corner. And he was delivering some shoulder thrusts. Dawkins came right back, delivered a right hand to Styles, and a splash in the corner. Omos then delivered a cheap shot, which sent Dawkins out to the floor. Styles ended up delivering a forearm to send Montez Ford out to the floor. And Styles ended up launching himself over the top rope. He ended up taking Dawkins down at ringside. As Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Omos was beating Dawkins around the ring. Omos delivered a scoop slam to Dawkins in the middle of the ring, and he kept control of the match. Dawkins came right back. He ended up catching Omos with the jawbreaker, which apparently chipped Omos' tooth, and it made Omos furious. Omos ended up leveling Dawkins, and he tagged in Styles. Dawkins ended up dodging Styles, and he tagged in Montez Ford. Ford started unloading on Styles, ended up rolling him up for a 2 count. Ford then delivered a super kick to Styles' gut, and then delivered an enziguri. So Ford ended up running into a big boot in the corner from Styles. So Ford ended up coming back, and he delivered a flying clothesline to Styles. Ford then took off his glove. He ended up tossing it, and he went over and slapped Omos in the face, and Omos was just seething, and Ford ended up slapping him again, which angered Omos even more. Ford and Dawkins end up doing a double drop kick to Omos off the apron, and Omos was still standing at ringside. I mean, it's going to take, a whole lot of other, things to make Omos go down. I mean, he's a very tall guy. But still, whenever Omos is in the ring, he is absolutely terrible. He is the Great Khali nowadays. Omos is fucking terrible in the ring. So Styles ended up delivering a brainbuster in the middle of the ring, and he ended up going up to the apron. He delivered the phenomenal forearm to Montez Ford. So Styles ended up springboarding up, and Omos ended up taking himself in. Styles wasn't happy about Omos taking himself in. Dawkins ended up tagging in. He ended up dropping Styles at ringside. Omos then ended up taking out Dawkins. Ford ended up leaping out of the ring, and Omos ended up catching him in midair. He ended up slamming Ford over the edge of the apron. So Styles was looking to plead with Omos to get back into the ring. And the referee ended up counting, and Omos was counted out. So the Profits end up winning the match by countout. Post-match, Styles and Omos end up coming back into the ring. Styles end up talking about how Omos has to listen, because that's how this team works. So Omos wasn't interested in what Styles was saying. Omos ended up turning around. He ended up walking away from Styles. Styles ended up looking on as Omos ended up walking straight to the back. Styles was calling for Omos to come back to the ring, but Omos was just still walking to the back. Matt Riddle ended up coming into the ring. He was, trying to interview Styles on these crazy events. So Styles ended up saying that he wasn't interested. So Matt Riddle ended up, kept going, still trying to act Styles. So Styles ended up asking Matt Riddle if he should be interviewing the winners. So Riddle ended up saying that his journalistic integrity told him to follow the biggest story, and the Street Profits are too fast. Matt Riddle ended up saying that things are getting juicy between Styles and Omos. So he ended up asking Styles to explain. So Styles was like to Matt Riddle, "Is this Dateline?" Styles ended up saying that this was just a disagreement, a miscommunication between a great tag team. Something Matt Riddle would know nothing about. "Oh, I'm sorry, AJ Styles and Omos, they're not a legit tag team." So Styles ended up saying that he's going to shove the mic down Matt Riddle's throat if he doesn't get it out of his face. So Styles ended up walking off, and Matt Riddle was hyping up the rest of the tournament. So Matt Riddle ended up asking Orton if he'd like to add anything on what we saw with Styles and Omos. So Orton ended up saying no. So Matt Riddle ended up signing off from the ring, was being his, reporting thing, his reporter. And Orton's music ended up playing, and that was that. But is this the end for Styles and Omos as a tag team, even though they're not a legit tag team? I really hope so. I really do. AJ Styles deserves to be on his own, and if this is a breakup here between the two of them, Styles will be going on to better things, on his own, just having singles matches. And Omos, I see Omos, in matches, and then he'll be off TV, and then he'll possibly be in the next set of releases by WWE. That's how I see what WWE is going to do with Omos. But I really do hope this is the end of Styles and Omos together. Now we have Sarah Schreiber. Sarah Schreiber was backstage with Becky Lynch. Becky ended up talking to Sarah Schreiber about how this is a big night and how Liv Morgan has never been hotter because of what she's done in recent weeks. She ended up saying that fans are behind her and that there's a new bandwagon to jump on as the Liv Morgan train keeps on. Becky ended up going on to say that the real battle will not be in the ring tonight. It will be in Liv's head and her heart, and also with the fans. Becky went on to say that as Liv does better, the fans will eventually turn on her. She ended up saying that she's the biggest star there is, and that's why this is just another Monday for big time Becks. So Becky Lynch ended up walking off, and that was that. And then we had an open challenge for the United States Championship. Damian Priest ended up defending the title against Roode. So we had Damian Priest end up coming out first. Then Monday Night Raw went to commercial. Then when Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, we saw Matt Riddle. He was ranting to Randy Orton. Orton ended up taking the blazer jacket off. He ended up saying that his broadcasting career is over for now. He ended up hanging the blazer on Matt Riddle's shoulders. He ended up telling him to have fun. So Matt Riddle ended up thanking Orton. Orton ended up walking off. And that was that. So then we went to the match. Of course, Damian Priest versus Roode, United States Championship match, because Roode accepted the open challenge. So the match ended up starting both Priest and Roode ended up locking up. Roode ended up taking Damian Priest into the corner, started loading some kicks to Damian Priest's gut, ended up stomping away at Priest. Priest then ended up turning around, started delivering some left and rights to Roode. Roode ended up kicking Damian Priest, but Priest ended up coming right back with a headbutt, with a jumping headbutt. Priest ended up sending Roode back to the corner, ended up keeping offense on Roode. Priest ended up sending Roode face first into the turnbuckles. He then nailed some knee strikes to Roode's gut. Priest then delivered a takedown and a big kick to Roode. And we had Dolph Ziggler end up providing the distraction from ringside. And Damian Priest ended up following up, and Roode ended up attacking him from behind, sending Priest into the ring steps. So Roode ended up tossing Damian Priest over the barricade into the crowd. As Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, we saw Roode end up nailing a blockbuster to Damian Priest. He went for the cover. Priest kicked out at 2. So at the end of the match, we had Roode end up stalking Damian Priest. He ended up kicking him in the gut. He ended up going for the Glorious DDT, but Priest ended up blocking it. Priest ended up turning the Glorious DDT into the Reckoning, but Roode ended up sliding out. So Roode ended up rolling Damian Priest up for a 2 count. And then Priest ended up leveling Roode with the Reckoning. And he went for the cover. And there you go. Damian Priest ended up winning the match, retaining the United States Championship. Post-match, Dolph Ziggler ended up coming in. He ended up dropping Damian Priest with a super kick. So then Dolph Ziggler ended up regrouping with Robert Roode at ringside. And that was that. Overall, very meh match, in my opinion. I mean, did you all think that Roode was going to win the match? And then we had Bianca Belair versus Doudrop. This match was absolutely boring. So we had Bianca Belair end up coming out first. Bianca Belair was swinging her hair, and Doudrop ended up running down. She ended up decking Bianca Belair from behind. Doudrop ended up laying Bianca Belair out at ringside, and Monday Night Raw went to commercial. Then when Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, we had Doudrop and Bianca Belair. They ended up going at it. Doudrop ended up missing a splash in the corner as Bianca Belair ended up moving. Bianca ended up fighting from the apron, starting low with some kicks in the corner to Doudrop. Bianca Belair ended up jumping on the second turnbuckle. She was taunting Doudrop. So she kept taunting Doudrop, and she ended up having a drop kick swatted out of midair. And Doudrop ended up nailing a senton on Bianca Belair. She went for the cover. Bianca ended up kicking out at 2. So Doudrop ended up rocking Bianca Belair in the corner. She ended up punching her with the right hand. Doudrop ended up controlling the match on Bianca. She ended up working Bianca around the ring. So Doudrop ended up leveling Bianca with a clothesline. And she was working on the elbow of Bianca Belair in the corner. Bianca ended up fighting from the corner, but Doudrop ended up leveling her for another pin attempt. So Doudrop was grounding Bianca Belair with a headlock. Bianca Belair ended up fighting up, started unloading the corner on Doudrop. So at the end of the match, we had Bianca Belair end up scooping Doudrop for the KOD, which Doudrop had enough as she made her exit out of the ring, and she walked up the ramp. The referee was counting. So Bianca Belair ended up winning the match by count out. Doudrop wanted nothing more to do with Bianca. So post-match, Bianca Belair stood tall in the ring. Doudrop ended up stopping. She ended up turning around as Bianca Belair had her arm raised. And Doudrop was just slapping her butt on the stage to Bianca. And then Bianca had this disgusted look on her face, like, as Doudrop ended up slapping her butt at Bianca. So, but overall, terrible match. Very boring. And then we saw Vince McMahon. Vince was in his office. Austin Theory ended up walking into Vince's office. He ended up taking a seat. So Vince ended up asking Austin Theory how he was doing. Theory ended up telling Vince that he's a bit sore in the jaw. If you remember last week, Vince ended up slapping Austin Theory. Vince ended up saying that he hopes Austin Theory learns something this week as well. So Vince was thinking about putting Austin Theory in a match tonight. And Austin Theory ended up asking Vince if he expected him to actually put him in a match. So Austin Theory ended up saying no. So Vince then ended up thinking it over, and pretty much that was that. And then we had Miz TV. So the Miz ended up welcoming us to Miz TV. You have seen that Maurice is not here because of the people in Memphis. So Miz ended up recalling last week's segment with Edge, which WWE tried their hardest to be and copy MJF and CM Punk in that whole 20-minute promo that Punk and MJF end up cutting, and WWE end up trying to copy them, and they failed. They end up failing hard. So Miz ended up saying that he can't get over the fact that Edge paid him a compliment, and a heartfelt compliment. Miz ended up saying that he knows Edge, and this isn't like him, and that he can't help but wonder if Edge is a shell of his former self. So Miz was like, or is he? So Miz ended up bringing out Edge. Edge ended up coming out to a pop from the Memphis crowd. So Edge ended up saying that he meant those compliments last week, and he still means them this week. So Miz ended up saying that this is so sweet, but he thinks the Rated R superstar has lost his edge. Edge ended up saying that's a clever pun. So Miz ended up saying that the old Ultimate Opportunist would have speared him out of his $9,000 shoes last week. So Miz ended up knowing that Edge can get around the ring just fine, but he thinks he sounds mentally weak. So Edge ended up telling The Miz to not mistake his kindness for weakness. Edge ended up saying that he doesn't know what is going on here, but clearly The Miz has bigger issues. So Edge was like to The Miz, what is the deal here? So The Miz ended up saying that he needed Edge's kindness when he first got into the company, when he was walking around on eggshells. And this was back in 2006. So The Miz was like, I needed your help, Edge, when I was walking around on eggshells, when I was kicked out of the locker room for being an outcast, for having the it factor. So The Miz ended up saying that everyone was busy protecting Edge and treating him like a peasant. They were treating The Miz like a peasant when he was better than 90% of the locker room. So The Miz ended up saying that he doesn't want or need Edge's kindness. So Edge ended up recalling a talk that he had with The Miz years ago, where he told The Miz that he'd be just fine, and The Miz brushed him off. So Edge ended up talking about how he went through the same issues 7 years before The Miz, and the biggest difference is Edge didn't walk into the locker room thinking he was better than anyone else. So Edge ended up going on about how he doesn't hold people down. So Edge ended up telling The Miz to look into the mirror, and it will tell him the same thing as back in 2006. So he was like, you're an ass. He ended up calling The Miz an ass. So The Miz ended up standing up. Edge ended up getting up. Miz ended up saying that Edge is a hypocrite, and he's vulnerable. So The Miz ended up saying that he surpassed Edge in every way. And 2022 will be his year, and he can't think of a better way to kick it off than being Edge at day one. So Edge ended up saying that is then. He's standing here in Memphis right now with nothing between them but air and opportunity. So The Miz simply ended up saying no. And he continued about how he's not afraid or scared of Edge. So then Edge ended up dropping him with a punch, and that was that. And The Miz was throwing a fit in the ring. But overall, this was just meh, in my opinion. In fact, I was actually dozing off here during this segment because I was just bored of this fucking show. So then we had a backstage segment with Liv Schreiber. Getting this off of my online here because I missed out on this. So Sarah Schreiber was backstage with Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan ended up saying that Becky Lynch wasn't entirely wrong and that people are watching her. And they do want to see Liv Morgan take the title off of Becky Lynch. Liv ended up saying that Becky is used to get what she wants. But tonight, Liv will do what's in her power to get what she wants. And that is the Raw Women's Championship. So that was said by Liv Morgan. And then we had the second match in this Arcade Bro Name It tournament, where it was the Mysterios versus the Alpha Academy. I was pretty much dozed off here, so I didn't see this match. So the Mysterios end up winning, as I'm looking right here at the results. So the Mysterios won. Not surprised there. So, also, Vince McMahon was on the phone. Again, this off of the results here. I was still passed out during this. Still, fell asleep when this was going on. So Vince McMahon was on the phone. Austin Theory was doing jumping jacks. Really? He was doing jumping jacks? So Vince hung up the phone. He ended up telling Austin Theory to have a seat. Vince was telling Austin Theory, unfortunately, that Theory wasn't ready the first time, Vince saw him. And that there will be no match for Austin Theory. Vince ended up saying that he was impressed with Austin Theory's match against Big E, and there will be no match. And that Austin Theory needs to find another way to impress him. So Austin Theory then unzipped his jacket, showed off his abs. He went back to doing jumping jacks. Vince ended up yelling at him to stop because that is not what he was thinking. So Vince ended up telling Austin Theory to use his brains and find another way to impress him. So that was that. And then we have Finn Balor versus T-Bar, which I did see this match. I finally woke up. So we have Finn Balor versus T-Bar. So the match started off with T-Bar clubbing Balor from behind. Balor ended up applying a headlock. T-Bar ended up missing a clothesline, and he ended up catching the cross body. And he ended up tossing Balor across the ring. He went for the cover. Balor ended up kicking out too. T-Bar was mounting Balor with some right hands, and he delivered some strikes to Balor. T-Bar ended up delivering a backbreaker to Balor in the middle of the ring. He went for the cover. Balor kicked out too. T-Bar then ended up grounding Balor in the middle of the ring. Balor ended up fighting back up, and Balor ended up dropping T-Bar. He went for the cover. T-Bar kicked out too. At the end of the match, T-Bar ended up climbing up to the second rope. Balor ended up fighting him off with some elbows. He delivered a chop to T-Bar, sending T-Bar down to the mat. Balor ended up followed up with the coup de grace, and he went for the cover. And there you go. Balor ended up winning the match. Post-match, Balor was celebrating, and Austin Theory ended up attacking Balor from behind. So Austin Theory was unloading on Balor. He ended up laying Balor out with the ATL. Theory ended up pulling out his phone, started taking a few selfies with Balor as Balor was laid out. So Austin Theory ended up making his exit out of the ring. He was yelling about expecting the unexpected. And it looked like he was apparently sending the selfies to Vince. So that was that. Overall, awful match between Balor and T-Bar. And then we get Dana Brooke, the Jobber 24/7 champion. So Dana Brooke was surprised by R-Truth, who was dressed in a Bush costume, and Akira Tozawa, who popped out of a trash can. And R-Truth ended up wondering if that is PG. So they end up letting Dana Brooke go. Reginald ended up flies out of nowhere And Reggie ended up telling Dana Brooke to don't be alarmed, and that he's here to finish their conversation. So Reggie ended up giving Dana Brooke props for her winning the Jobber 24/7 title. Really? Really? Why are you giving her props for winning a garbage title that should be fucking retired? So Reggie was like, oh, the title looks good around you. So Tamina Snuka ended up running up on Dana Brooke, and Reggie ended up giving Dana Brooke the heads up and allowed Dana Brooke to escape. And Reggie ended up getting in Tamina's way, and that was that. But fuck the Jobber 24/7 title. Fuck everything about it. This title needs to be retired. But yet WWE wants to retire the Cruiserweight belt. Yet you want to retire the Cruiserweight belt, but yet you can't get rid of this garbage 24/7 title. Smart. Smart there. Awful. Absolutely awful. They want to get rid of the Cruiserweight title, but yet keep this trash of a title. I don't fucking get it. Main event. Becky Lynch versus Liv Morgan. Raw Women's Championship on the line. Of course, the champ, Becky Lynch, ended up coming out first. And then as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, we had MVP and Bobby Lashley. They were walking backstage. Kevin Patrick ended up asking Bobby Lashley why he attacked Big E, Kevin Owens, and Seth Rollins earlier in the night. So MVP ended up saying that we live in an era where people are too comfortable disrespecting others because there are no consequences. He ended up saying that Bobby Lashley was upset at the audacity of having a WWE Championship match without even mentioning his name. And MVP ended up saying that that was disrespectful. And what happened was the consequences. So Bobby Lashley ended up taking the mic. Lashley ended up saying, when you disrespect him, that's what happens. So that was that. MVP and Bobby Lashley ended up walking off. And then we had a video package on Liv Morgan. We saw, a text message from Liv Morgan's mother and about how she grew up obsessed with WWE and she is now fighting for her dream. So we had all that, and it made us believe that, oh yeah, WWE might actually put the Raw Women's Championship on Liv Morgan tonight. They're hyping up Liv Morgan possibly winning the title. So we had Liv Morgan and Becky Lynch. They end up staring each other down. The match ended up starting, and they end up locking up. Becky ended up going behind, ended up slamming Liv Morgan into the mat. Becky was talking some trash. Both Morgan and Lynch ended up locking up again. Becky ended up applying a headlock on Liv Morgan. And she was taunting Liv Morgan, ended up smacking her around. Liv got back up, delivered a takedown on Becky. Liv ended up missing a drop kick to the ropes as Becky ended up going out to the floor. Becky Lynch ended up coming back in. Liv ended up delivering a punch to Becky. Liv ended up dropping Becky with her shoulder, started talking trash to her. And Liv ended up trying to leapfrog on Becky, but Becky ended up taking her down from midair. So we had back and forth between them. They were trying to do pin attempts. Becky ended up rocking Liv with a right hand. She ended up taking control of the match. Becky then ran into a back elbow in the corner from Liv Morgan. Liv delivered a drop kick. Becky was scrambling into the corner. And Becky ended up kicking Liv out to the floor. Becky ended up running with a baseball slide under the bottom rope out to the floor. But Liv ended up countering it and ended up dropping Becky at ringside with double knees to Becky's face. And there was a point where both women were in the ring. Becky ended up hitting a superplex to Liv Morgan, and they both were down as Monday Night Raw went to commercial. Then as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Becky was shown dominating on Liv Morgan. Becky delivered a leg drop over the back of Liv Morgan, and she went for the cover. Liv Morgan ended up kicking out. Becky ended up stomping on Liv Morgan, ended up applying a submission from behind. And at the end of the match, we had Becky end up dragging Liv Morgan away from the corner because Becky ended up going into the disarmer, and Liv ended up getting her foot on the bottom rope to break it up. So Liv ended up rolling Becky for a 2 count. Liv blocked the manhandle slam and rolled Becky up for a 2 count. So Becky immediately turned that into a roll-up, and she ended up using the rope to get the win. She ended up using the rope for the leverage to get the pin. So there you go. Becky Lynch ended up winning the match, retaining the Raw Women's Championship. Post-match, Becky ended up going right out to the floor. Becky Lynch then raised the Raw Women's Championship on the ramp. And that was how Monday Night Raw went off the air. But overall, same old shit at the end of the match. Nothing new here. The hype for the match pretty much did nothing in the end. WWE made us believe, oh yeah, we're going to give the Raw Women's Championship to Liv Morgan. But yet, what do? Same old shit. WWE is absolutely fucking clueless. They make Becky Lynch retain the title by her using the rope as leverage to get the win. Obviously, nothing new. Same old shit. But that was Monday Night Raw tonight. A boring ass fucking terrible show it was. Absolutely awful. But anyways, that's it for the Monday Night Raw review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. Be sure to check out my previous video. Did a movie review of 8-Bit Christmas. So check out my review of that if you guys haven't seen it. And I'll see you all later.